Guys, since Starfield Direct happened a couple weeks ago, we have been getting hit with tons of information. And now today, it's like a surprise almost. Todd Howard pops on the Kinda Funny Xcast with a 45-minute interview with some tons and tons of great information. We're going to talk about it. So let's go. One of the first things they talk about that I thought was absolutely different was accessibility. Now, Todd Howard goes on to say how well Xbox has done with accessibility for their system and especially their controller. But one thing they pushed really hard on Starfield was larger font mode. I kind of laughed at this initially, but then I thought real hard about it. As Todd explained, we have a lot of reading that goes on, and just like any Bethesda game, and you may not want to squint at the TV or the PC screen or whatever you're playing this game on for hours upon hours, so you can make that font larger. I thought that was unbelievably intuitive on their part and forward thinking. And let's be honest, if you're like me, you just turned 40, we're not getting any younger, and we're deep fans of this genre, this company for years and years. So a lot of older people might be playing this game like myself. And, I wear glasses now, and it's not going to get any easier. Right after this, the host really tried to dig in on handhelds and if it was Steam Deck compatible. Now, Todd Howard didn't say it was or say it wasn't, but they did say they would look into that in the future. So I'll be anxious to see if this will become a handheld game, because that alone could really boost the sales of Steam Deck. Next, they talk about a really cool concept on character creation. In the past, Skyrim especially, I can remember with the certain abilities you could say right off the bat, but then you would have the multiple perks and the star charts that you could add. But depending on how you played the game or what you found out going forward about 20, 30 hours in, you may have picked the wrong class, the wrong character, the wrong trait right off the bat. So Todd explains now with Starfield, and what they've learned from that is that there's a good bit of traits they can jump right off the bat that'll give you a good foothold no matter what you're going into. He says, and I quote, they've hit a real sweet spot with giving players that you are going to pick some starting skills with your background, but that's going to have a lot of flavor. He also says more specifically that the traits are kind of a throwback to Fallout, where they have a lot of positives, but they can have some negatives too, depending on how you play the game. Later on, they talked about planets. And one thing that's been on the mind of so many people is, with 1,000 planets, is there going to be life on every planet? Is there going to be something to expect every time you land? And Todd gives a really good answer on this. He says that obviously they had to generate many of the planets. In fact, 10% of them really only have life on it. So you're going to be looking at a lot of planets to gather resources. And I don't blame him for that, because to generate 1,000 planets and have every one of them uniquely created, this game will still be in development until probably 2050. But based on other information we have about base building and outpost building and setting your companion there to mine, let's say iron, and then ship that iron to an outpost to generate money. With so many planets that you can get resources from, I think it's going to be more fun on that aspect to put an outpost, say, here where there's a nickel ore, and you can gather a ton of that and ship it out and make a ton of credits to expand your base, expand your freighter. He also says that like a menu on each galaxy, he's going to have maybe a planet with life on it here, but then there's other planets that have this resource or that. And it's almost like a Goldilocks thing where you got to pick, or you want to pick and choose what you want to do. You know, are you in this galaxy to do a mission, to do this, to find more people? Are you to find mercenaries? Are you in this to gather resources? And on this topic, I don't know if this has been said or stated, but I wonder if you can have multiple outposts. I almost think you can. I think I did hear that, but that would make it more sense, because you have an outpost on this planet and then an outpost on another galaxy to gather another material. But I'll have to follow that up. If I find an answer, I'll put that in the comments below. Also, right now, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more of it, come on by the page, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, and let me know a comment below. How excited are you for Starfield? What's your favorite part based on the information we have that you're excited for? And if you're going to be sticking around, I'd love to hear more from you. So let's get back to the video. One of the hosts gives a great question to Todd, and you can see the genuine surprise in him when he gets asked this, because they talk about the biomes of the planets and certain planets, and he asked Todd if there's something he needs to prepare for. If it's got high radiation, if it's got this, do they only go to that planet if they're prepared? What happens if they don't? Todd gives a great answer to this, talking about how some planets have several biomes, while one planet may just have one biome. But we need to know that is going into it, so how to prepare your suit. Now, this does remind me of like a No Man's Sky, where you have certain protections for frost, heat, radiation, etc. But knowing Bethesda, knowing Todd Howard, this is going to be a lot more in-depth, a lot more where you just don't apply sodium to the suit and you recharge everything. I feel like it's going to be something we need to prepare for, especially if the planet is something, lucrative there, or a treasure, or a boss of some sort, where you just can't land your spaceship on there and say, okay, let's give it our best shot, and not be prepared. However, he also says that's where surveying the planets come into play, because of the different flora, the plants, everything on that planet. He also says that fully surveying that planet, that data is worth a lot of money, similar to No Man's Sky. I'm just curious what full surveying is. Is it like scanning every planet or plant on that planet, or is it more diverse, or is it more simple than that? Of course, only time will tell when we get to play the game, but nonetheless, a great answer from Todd. One of the hosts also talks about what to expect with creatures, bringing up death claws and dragons from previous games that were just epic creatures and predators, and Todd has a great answer to this. And the reason this is such a great answer, because Todd kind of looks off screen and he says, well, there's a few bad ones and there's one really bad one, but you're just going to have to play it. So that tells me that there's definitely a lot of creatures to look forward to, but him to speak out and specify one bad one, I am just anxious to know if that's a story-driven predator, or if it's something we'll come across blindly and just be completely blown away by. I am so excited to find out. When they talk about companions, an interesting topic comes up, because Todd gives credit to, obviously, his team, the time and effort they put into each companion and their stories and what they can do for you. But he also talks about how he leaves it open for you, the player. If you want to play by yourself, you don't need to take companions. There's traits for that. Or you could have an entire companion army of robots. You're not specified or specifically driven to have different multiple companions. You can have none, all robots. It seems like there's a lot of diversity on what you can do. Truthfully, I got to give props to Todd Howard, because he gives so little away, but also explains it so well, just to let us salivate of how much we want to play this game. He also talks about the music in the game, and I think it's so well put that he tells us that music is one of the first things they start with. They do the concept art, and then they go straight for the music. And if you're like me, music makes just about any game the way a game is. So if you have bad music and that game is a great playable game, sometimes it's not as playable as people think. But if the music is on point, whether you're coming into a major conflict or just the general theme song of this game entices me so much, gets me so excited, music is truly a passion, and Todd understands that by working on that first. And he talks about how sometimes when he's playing a game and a certain song comes on, that puts him in the mood to do a certain task or do a certain part of the game that maybe he wouldn't have thought about until the music came up. So a very cool insight on Todd giving us that. And in case you're wondering, he did answer the all-elusive question if there will be space radio similar to Fallout. And he gave an answer that there is one, but it's close to a certain, say, settlement or city. It's more of a local station. So kind of disappointing, but still, nonetheless, good to know that we'll have at least one radio station. Now, when they brought up the topic about ships, I thought it was really excellent that they asked, if you steal a ship, if you lack of better words, just take over a ship, is that ship locked to that design, to that specification? He said, absolutely not. Every ship is craftable, add-ons, whatever you want to do to any ship. However, if you do steal a ship, you have to spend credits to register that ship, which only makes sense. He also said that the ship experience is a very late game, in-depth system. He doesn't expect you to just start the game, steal a ship, and then start expanding that. So that tells me that there's going to be a lot of cost involved, and maybe something late in the game, like he said, where you have a lot of credits or just a lot of knowledge of what you want to do. In regards to the ship and light speed travel, they asked a great question to Todd about lore, like in Mass Effect and other games where they have very lore rich of, hey, this is how we achieve that light speed, this is how we do this travel. And Todd answers immediately that yes, they have that lore with the grav drive, and he didn't go into a lot of detail other than that, but you know that there's going to be a lot of lore, probably written lore, that we will read, and that just shows that how much time and effort they put into this. It's going to be great. Later on, when they hit him up about tech and performance, he gave a good detail on some aspects of it, but when it came to the 30 frames per second, he still insisted that they're about continuity and consistency, and that's what they want to strive for to make the game enjoyable for the fans. I think it's a great answer, and I don't think it's going to be a big deal at 30 frames per second on the Xbox. I said this in one of my other previous videos, but if you're a fan of Bethesda games or role-playing games in general, you're here more for the story and the playability. You're not always after the most high-end 4K graphics. But I know those opinions can differ, so let me know in the comments what you think. What are you after? Are you wanting that 60 frames per second, or are you okay with the 30 frames per second? Let me know. When it comes to side quests, one of the hosts gave a hilarious analogy to what he says a standard side quest is in every RPG game. And Todd answered that, hey, we're still going to have those kind of, I hate to use the word mundane side quests, but where you go, you do something, you get a reward. But he also says that they're going to have a lot more in-depth side quests that are going to be meaningful. Now he says, sure, you land on a planet, you're going to go to an outpost, there's going to be a quest that will generate, and you go from there. Which, if you all didn't know this, in Skyrim, that's when that first came about, where Skyrim was an endlessly playing game because they had an AI generation that you could do every side quest in the game, but you could go back to that town, a different house, a different person, and it would generate a similar quest. It was the first time that was ever done, and it was really intuitive, very, very, very cool once you experienced it and knew what was going on. And now Starfield has obviously brought that in and expanded it and refined it. Also, Todd was very forthcoming, saying that Starfield will be a modder's paradise. So we know mods are coming, and that's how their community revolves around a single player game. The one question I wish they would have asked, and I'll ask it now, is traditionally Xbox and consoles have not been very modding friendly. It's been a PC, Steam based kind of thing. So I wonder if that will change since they are an Xbox exclusive and they'll make it easier somehow to mod on Xbox consoles, or if it's still going to be where you will need to have a high-end PC to put those great mods on there. The last thing they really talk about is outposts, and Todd reiterates how, just like shipbuilding, outposts are very deep in-game activities that cost a lot of resources, a lot of credits. Specifically, he said you're really going to have all your traits, resources, a bunch of abundance of things to make the outpost grow. You can start at any time, but to know you're going to need a lot of stuff. So it's definitely an in-game activity. And he also says, and he confirms, that there is a way to connect those outposts from planet to planet. And thus far, the coolest thing I've heard him confirm is that the outpost can be an economy generator. So I'm anxious to see how that would turn out, especially if you're on a planet that's barren. Does that mean you'll physically see, say, ships come in to gather the resources you're selling to them? Will it bring in cities? What all can that do? That's going to be very, very interesting. That's really the meat and potatoes of this short 45-minute podcast. I wish we could have had 4 hours of these questions because these guys did a phenomenal job. I will link the podcast below in the comments, but you guys need to go check it out for yourselves. I summarized it the best I could, but I think they all did a great job. I think Todd answered the questions phenomenally, and like I said, I'm salivating practically. So excited for what we're going to be able to do in this game, and I think I'm more excited to know that we'll play the game, whether you play the main story, side quest, whatever. It feels like it's going to be years, hours, hundreds, thousands of hours before you really get to this sweet spot of, hey, I've got an economy-driven outpost here. My character's maxed out. You know, there's so much to do, and he knows that. The team at Bethesda knows that, and that's why they've put so much effort and light into this new IP, first one in 25 plus years. So if you're like me, I know you guys are excited, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you stuck around for the whole thing. It means the world to me. Let me know again in the comments. Say something, anything. What do you guys think? Because there's more content coming. Starfield's right around the corner, and I'm looking forward to it. Till next time, at Astra Travelers, take care and be safe.